It's whether you take on this responsibility to tell the story at its most profound level. That's the debt of honor. The idea of finding people who are deeply committed and who are willing to pay a debt of honor by working for years and years and years.
I'm not a member of the writing group, but I have attended quite a few of the Saturday morning sessions, and I first came to that because I'd done some work with Donald at York Theatre Royal, and we produced two of Donald's plays, and he is writer in residence with us. I'm always very aware of the fact that Donald will raise an issue about a piece of writing and not answer it. He just raises the issue and will continue on the issue. Donald will show them where the itch is, but he won't scratch it.
She stood tentatively in the entry. Ned got up and went to her. I stood up too.
She had written a book. She now keeps saying, if I only knew Donald before.
I have in my home, if you come to visit, 2 walls filled with mystery books. And I read them and I read them and I read them. Because you want to see how they do it. So I have him ask for coffee, but the Vietnamese coffee, because they're in a Vietnamese restaurant, iced.
Excellent.
Well, you know, his mantra is, every character, even if it's a way to bringing in a glass of water, has to have a reason, what he wants out of life. And so Donald is constantly saying, what would you want to do, and what would you do?
No, I live partly here and partly in England. But I continue with Donald when I'm in England. We speak once a week.
Malnourished children stared with large vacant eyes. I couldn't look. I'm ashamed to admit half of me felt a thrill at being treated as such a celebrity, and the other half was ashamed of feeling this way and wondering how human beings could behave so cruelly to one another. I hated not having money on me. My thought turned to the courage and dedication of Mahatma Gandhi. I'd read Churchill's thoughts on this great man, ridiculing him as a half-naked fakir. How could he have? Had he ever been to India? By the way, I found out that he was in India, so I'm going to change this.
Well, no, I mean, because you didn't know then, so that's what counts.
Oh, really?
Yeah, of course.
It's a novel called The Lazarus Project. The artificial respirators keep time with each other, synchronizing the breathing of the 2 patients whose beds lay side by side. I realized that, yeah, I've always wanted to write, and I've never really had the discipline or the confidence. After a few minutes, the breathing of the patient in the bed by the window begins to speed up slightly. You know, being a high school dropout, I'm self-conscious over some of my abilities. Getting up slowly, he goes to the other patient, turning off all the machines and removing the respirator mask. The face revealed is that of his identical twin. He doesn't let you bring in like an extra without a backstory. It's like, so if a cop is going to stop someone on the street and give them a ticket, what did he have for breakfast? Where is he from? Why is he a policeman? He may never appear again. But you need to know why that man is there. He puts his fingers on the carotid artery in the neck, checking for a pulse that isn't there. Yep, it worked, he says with a wry smile to the people he apparently knows are watching from beyond the mirror. I'm dead as a doornail.
A few days later after the funeral, I am in between patients at my office, busy trying to straighten out my desk. First file, Casey Winters. Oh, I haven't seen her in a couple of months. The last session we had was spent talking about her frustration of not being able to have an orgasm with her new boyfriend. I don't want to lose control in front of him, she had said. I will never lose control in front of a man again. Ugh, where does this file go? My phone rings. God damn it, I just want some peace. I don't feel like talking to anyone. My characters were sort of in front of the curtain, and Donald is making me open up the curtain And now they're truly on stage, and they're raw, and they are exposed, and they are naked.
And they hate each other almost as much as you hate them. For the moment, I mean,
sitting here,
yeah.
Because I'm not even thinking about.
Yeah, but why not be
them?
Yeah.
I almost actually said that, and then I thought,
yeah,
it's not.
No. But we like the truth makes people. The truth makes people love Medea, Lady Macbeth, and so forth.
I didn't know what to expect. I was already writing my novel, but I hadn't got very far with it. Via pushed down on the handlebar and swung the door open. At once, the heady scent of her mother's perfume assailed her nostrils. It was distinctive and true to character, rich and powerful, seductive and intoxicating, like a drug. The vast, sumptuous bedroom beckoned her to tiptoe inside. The lighting was subdued, casting an eerie glow against the maroon walls. I suppose the biggest technique that he's taught me, and he keeps repeating over and over again, is the finding the truth and making sure that before you write a line of dialogue or a thought or a feeling, you write the action, what a character does.
That means you have each character in mind, each character with an intention. You've tripled your possibilities. You haven't taken away from anybody.
My writing is a lot more streamlined now. My characters are much more three-dimensional because I've always got their intention and their need in mind, and therefore that action is what drives the story, what they do, not what they say or what they feel or what they think.
I think she worked with every important media person in New York.
Charlotte Jones was recently appointed assistant publisher of People magazine.
I was a secretary on five separate occasions, each time having risen above.
For a lot of years, I had been asked by so many people to write my book, my story. And I kept saying, why would I? I'm not famous, I'm not a celebrity.
Let's work on this.
Yeah.
The intention knows no let or hindrance. There's no modesty. There's no vanity in it. It's just raw need.
He doesn't say, no, use this word, not that word, or write this sentence, not that sentence.
I think that's right, getting into everything having a double meaning.
Right.
So if he's saying just be yourself, does he mean you will prevail?
I write to sort out the inner turmoil within myself.
Francine had a long and productive working life. She's a medical librarian. She's highly sophisticated at what she does.
You know, when it's going well, it's exhilarating.
All I can think of is Michael drowning. Why can't you understand me? Such nonsense. What a silly girl you are. What happened to Michael will never happen to you. Be a big girl, not a little coward afraid of her own shadow.
You might say I write to learn about myself.
By doing this character notes where you are using the if and you're asking yourself all these questions about that character, you really are getting into the soul of the character and you're giving it a depth. I would stand holding the railings. Good. And looking at the church and the window and the glass, right. But not go in.
Yes, what would you do?
Go across the street.
But how would you, tell me what you would do. I mean, you're not a free agent. Mm-hmm. You're in conflict.
Yeah.
So if you don't go in and you cross the street instead, tell me about crossing the street.
So she would have to look at her watch to see the time of the appointment.
How much it's only maybe 15 or 20 seconds.
Yeah.
But it almost feels like she lost her track, didn't she?
Right.
So now what would you do?
So she's going to jaywalk.
Oh. You see the difference?
She's learning. She, a 26-year-old financial planner.
So right now we're working on a project where I'm writing about money management and great literature, what we can learn from King Lear and others about prudent investment management. One of the reasons that he and the class appealed to me was because I guess my intention in life would be to be the best version of myself that I can be.
I think storytelling really, for me, why it's important and how I approach it is that it's something that you're going to lose if you don't get it down. Their father showed the two little boys their entire country from 10,000 feet, from the Gulf Coast to the Great Plains to the Rocky Mountains and the Grand Sierras. Suddenly, Michael was back in the cockpit. His father turned to him, releasing his hands off the controls as his voice crackled through the headset. "It's your airplane, son." His stomach shot up into his throat as the airplane dove. Michael pulled back up, and a wide smile spilled across his face.
As you can see, it's rather crowded space, but it's private, and this is where my computer is.
No, I always say if you want me to wash your windows, give me a writing assignment and I'll wash the windows first. Or I'll bake a pie first.
Gaily, they descended the Rococo stairway out to the fresh air. Barbara linked her hand through her arm through Sally's, while the two men walked behind. Barbara advised Sally that she and Jacques were not truly a couple in the conventional sense of the word. "I do not like him in that way. I like you." At that, she ran her hand up and down Sally's bare back. "Oh my God, this can't be happening."
I write, and I love to write. Sometimes Mark Twain said, "I hate to write. I love having written." And I understand that. I understand that feeling. It's not the feeling I have with the play I'm writing now, with the piece that I read today. Sons is not a book. Sons is a story. The story begins when Cole Porter and Marlon Brando meet. They never met in life.
Had anybody told me that I would be writing a play myself before I'd started, I just don't think I think I'd have frozen up. Every week I receive the emails that all the rest of the group receive, and so I kind of live vicariously, and we have an hour-long phone call. Now I think we're so far down the line that I can read bits to him, he can comment, and I'm picking up very quickly.
That many people have, kind of been woven into my life, and I have a lot of vignettes. And my thought originally was that I wanted to put a piece together that I could, like a one-woman show, telling these stories.
The moment we got there, she grabbed me by the hand, ran with me behind a big tree which hid the both of us. Afterwards, she ripped off the paper, broke the ice cream sandwich, and gave half of it to me. Oh, I love my little sister.
What I know about Mitch is that he was the great actor of Los Angeles theater.
The basic techniques of writing are very similar to acting. You have to find out why you're there, what's the motivation, what you're doing. Did you love your father? Tim said, turning. I never knew if I did.
Okay, darkness falls. As the sun disappears, the calls, cries, chirps of the bugs seem to slowly reach crescendo, as if they are rejoicing at winning the forest back from the sunlight. I hitch my skirt up, climb into the water again. I'm already soaking wet. I try to keep my mind from the piranhas, stingrays, anaconda, and caiman.
Good. So if you have an intention in mind, in life, having nothing to do with where you are, from 5 years old, and see anything that you might change, don't change any of the facts.
Now?
Yeah, just now, just to improvise. It's just a little experiment.
Well, it's quite scary reading out in front of such accomplished, brilliant people who are all much older than me as well. I was like, oh my God. when he was like, okay, on the spot, what would your intention been since 5 years old? That's a big question to answer on the spot. And then how would you see this scene?
Be a nuisance to listen to, but anyway.
It should put a year.
I'm sorry. It does have a year. It does have a year too.
Sorry.
Yeah, it does have a year. Dear Dr. Flanagan, you've suggested that I write a few things down since I find it so difficult to speak to you. I am stunned to find myself in therapy and a measure of my desperation to know the truth. Will you be able to give me that? If not, maybe we should end this now. You know, if you wait for inspiration, it's never going to friggin' come. It is about getting up and sitting in front of the friggin' computer or with my notebook or whatever I'm doing that day and doing it. Of imagine if you were she,
if you were she, what would you do? What could you do? What would you eventually do? I think that's very useful. You've got to keep it in mind. Intention, really. It keeps you focused. You know, I cannot live without a notebook and a pen. And now, even without a computer. So I think you have to be able to write at any moment of your life. And I always receive from Patty all the news about let's have the seminar on Saturday, then we'll go and have dinner here, and then we're going to theater there. And I'm by myself in Italy, and I say, oh, how I wish I could be with them. And
14. Interior, de Beaufort study, Venice, 1729, evening.
It was our first foray into saying, okay, we'll take an opera singer, not a writer.
I wanted to write a play about a violinist, as a violinist. Too many people write in such a pedantic way, and they are not really speaking from the character. If you're working from the intent of the character, and if you're thinking of that at every second, the truth of the character comes through in your writing.
Today, we're going to meet two very interesting people in our valley. The first is Dr. Lance Fogan. He's written a novel highlighting the impact of epilepsy on a family.
I'd always thought my whole life, an educated person would know languages and literature. I had no interest in writing at all. But literature, I really didn't know literature at all. Dostoevsky and Chekhov. That's started my journal.
And it's just about 400 pages.
I'm so appreciative to what Donald has done for me, because he has promoted my creativity and he's inspired me.
Sometimes I was telling Donald, it's like I'm channeling someone or something. I just put the pen in my hand and start, and I'm writing and writing and writing and writing. So here I was in my usual place on the trail, a bride ahead of me, a groom in the lead, riding in silence. How unfair that I should be spending my last day, the last ride of my life, behind a couple so full of firsts. They had everything I was losing. They had life before them, I had death.
Icons of the 20th century, 200 men and women who have made a difference.
Barbara is a journalist.
Berlin even attempted to erase the church's influence, especially in the annexed territories, by forbidding the use of Polish in both Mass and confession. Donald is the only one that's allowed to judge you publicly. Donald always is attempting to encourage truth, such as it may be for a particular character or characters in one's work. So you're aiming at that. I had to learn how to utilize my imagination. You know, you can allow the people that you're writing about to muse, to dream, and talk about their mistakes. Whereas in journalism, it's just the facts, ma'am.
Frances was one of our first students. She's been with us 12 years.
So I started to write something, and then I thought,
What is the one thing in the world that I know more about than anyone else? And of course, it's my family.
On my birthday that year, I was getting ready to leave for dinner with my husband when I realized our 3-year-old, Natalie, had climbed up on the bathroom counter and opened the medicine chest. I reached for her, but she was too quick for me. She grabbed the fluted bottle, opened it, and took a sip. I wrote a poem for the person in our class who died. Because I wrote something, as you'll see, very brief, but it's very different from anything I've ever done before. I never read poetry, never had written it, but somehow I came up with this. Barbara Katie died at 11 o'clock this morning. How can that be? No more blonde pixie cut. No more chocolate butt cakes stuffed with walnuts. No more gauzy skirts and tunics. No more elegant flat shoes at the end of long, slender legs. No more Barbara Katie. How can that be?
And the priest, the American priest, who was based on her great uncle, actually, and on her Polish family, and on her Wisconsin girlhood. That tall, athletic, middle-aged man who was undergoing a transformation in the underground and was holding a mass. The mass was reverent, not hurried, yet conducted with a powerful economy, vigilance a priority, with much planning to be settled afterward. The priest lifted the chalice up in high offering before a large crucifix that had been planted in back of the altar. Karski saw one of the last rays of the disappearing sun glint sharply off the crucifix and took it as a sign that his judgment about the priest had been correct. She was novel. Her novel was her. A story of world war and personal struggle, of love and the loss of love, of unearned suffering and redemption, and of mortality and immortal longings. And once again, love. The life of Barbara Katie was and is an arrow of longing for another shore.
When you listen to a singer, you don't want to listen to a voice that is flat, right? That doesn't give you any feeling, any emotion. So I guess it cannot be applied to writing too. They're now on top of a cliff. Ahead of the two cyclists lies an enormous stretch of water, darker than the sky. Emilio, hold on tight. Signora Tolin starts to pedal off again at high speed, 20, 10, 5 yards from the edge, and then they've left the last scrap of earth behind them. Wow, we are flying! Well, to those people who eventually will see this documentary, I would like to say that if they have stories they want to write, stories they are passionate about, just go and do it.